Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you, and today I want to talk about overrated knives. But before I get to talk about it, I would like to ask you to talk about it. Go ahead and put in the comments below. It doesn't have to be a knife actually, but any piece of gear that you bought thinking it would be just the most mind-blowingly amazing EDC gear or tool. You know, maybe it was a gun or a light or a pen or a knife, whatever it was. Even, you know, feel free to add what you like. Where you just thought this thing was going to be mind-blowingly outstanding, and you got it, and when you started using it, you realized, yeah, the hype was a little more than the actual item could bear. Okay, and so that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about today. So let me make this point pretty clear, because I know I'm going to get a lot of comments of people saying, oh yeah, this is terrible. These are not, I'm not saying in this video that I hate these items or that they're no good. In fact, as I look at the list I've got in front of me, every knife on this list I think is a good knife. And I think, you know, if you're watching this and you totally disagree with me and you want to go out and buy one, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Okay, I'm not arguing that these things are junk. I'm arguing that they're overhyped, that they're overrated. Okay, so again, I'd love to hear the items that you've had this experience with down below in the comments. Also, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Now let's get into the list. Number one most overrated knife, and I don't think this is a surprise to anyone, has got to be the Sebenza 21. Now, the Sebenza is a good knife, and the design is really cool, and the tolerances are absolutely amazing. Frame lock was a great invention from Chris Reeve. No question about any of that stuff, and I wouldn't argue about any of it. The tolerances are outstanding on Sebenzas. However, I think the price is a little steep on them for what you're getting. I think the level of innovation and interest is a little waning. You know, you think of the newest model, the Inkosi, I believe, and you look at a 21, even an original 21 and an Inkosi, and you go, yeah, maybe some creativity is lacking there. Great knives again, but just more overrated than I thought. And this was one that you know, I think gets a lot of attention because for new people, and I can remember when I was new getting into this, people would talk about the Sebenza almost with reverence. And so when I first got one, I was expecting this earth-shattering thing to happen, and I was like, this is it? You know? Since then, I've gotten some knives that I do believe are great standards, okay? That, you know, I'm going to compare almost every budget knife to this, okay? I'm going to compare a lot of high-end knives to this, even though it's not that expensive, but the quality levels on it are amazing for what it is. So there are some knives here that I think should be sort of standard bearers, but I just don't think the Sebenza really ought to be one at this point, okay? So Sebenza, does it deserve to be the knife by which all of the knives are measured? I don't think so. Is it a good knife? Sure it is. Moving on, number two, the Benchmade Gripilian. Now again, this is a much loved knife, and I'm sure I'm going to get some flack in the comments for some of these, and that's totally fine. I mean, you're more than free to disagree with me. I'd love to hear it. But again, this is a company that I love. I think Benchmade's done some great work. I think the Crooked River is one of the coolest knives ever to be conceived of, as well as the Contigo. And actually, even this year, I'm pretty excited, even though I know a lot of people aren't. I'm pretty excited to try out the Boost and the Freak. They both look pretty cool. But the Gripilian, I just can't get into. The size, it's a little small. The ergonomics, although it's relatively comfortable in hand, I don't feel like I have a lot of real estate. And the biggest issue is it feels cheap, okay? Now, I know that it's tough, and I know they've done testing to show that it will stand up to a great deal of abuse, but when it feels cheap in hand, and even will flex, if you squeeze the Gripilian handle really hard, you can see the flex in the handle. That just does not inspire confidence. And so for those reasons, oh yeah, and 154 cm steel, and the price point at like, you know, in many cases over $100. Now I know they can be had for less, but the Gripilian is one that I feel like is a little overpriced. And now I know they've upgraded it. Okay, so now there's a G10 Gripilian with standoffs and CPM 20 CV, which is an amazing steel. And so essentially they've made the Gripilian what it should have been, but they're charging almost $170, and maybe they are. I know the map pricing for Benchmade went up this year. I have not looked at a Gripilian recently, but I know they started out at 165, which is way too much for, you know, a G10 knife. Consider this this $40 knife has G10 scales. So is it really warranted to charge that much money because you switched from plastic to G10? I don't really think so. So Benchmade Gripilian is number 2 on the list, most rated, overrated knives. Number 3 on the list is the Spyderco Tenacious. Now you guys know, and I've picked on the Tenacious a few times before, but, and again, it's not a bad knife. However, it's too expensive for what it is, and that's because it's very popular. Let me be honest. This knife is very similar in construction, in size, to the Tenacious. It is a better knife in every conceivable way. Okay, fit and finish is better, materials are better, ergonomics are better, and it costs less. That's what frustrates me about the Tenacious. Is it's not delivering on the level of quality, even compared to a Rat Model 1. The Rat 1 really, in my books, blows away a Tenacious, not even comparable. And I would recommend a Rat 1 over a Tenacious any day of the week. Okay, so, and by the way, I also feel like lately, I've had some older Tenaciouses and newer Tenaciouses. That's a terrible thing to try and say. And I feel like the older ones, the quality was better than the new ones. So again, too expensive, lackluster materials and quality, and so for those reasons I think the Tenacious, although a good knife, is overrated. Number 4, these aren't really popular, the Swiss Army knife. Now I have no problem with Swiss Army knives, they're absolutely fine. But when you think about the two things they're trying to do, number 1, to be a slip joint knife, number 2, to be a multi-tool, I would say number 1, there are tons of better slip joints out there with better steel, better fit and finish, better materials. And then if you say, okay, but this one's also a multi-tool, I would say nearly any multi-tool, you know, a Leatherman Wave, a Leatherman Skeletool, a Leatherman Juice, and especially at the higher price point, you know, I paid less for my Leatherman Signal than I did for my Swiss Champ, and the Leatherman Signal is a much more useful tool and far more, you know, something I'd much rather have in my pocket if I was, you know, lost in the woods or something than a Swiss Army knife. Finally, a knife that gets a lot of love is the Buck Vantage. Okay, the Buck Vantage. Mediocre materials, less than awesome quality. Yeah, they tend to be pretty reasonably priced, but, you know, for that reasonable price, you get a flipper that doesn't flip well and a blade that's often severely off-center to the point that it's rubbing on the scales. There's so many videos out there about people complaining about the Vantage being off-center. And yeah, you can probably play with the pivot or send it back to Buck, and I'm sure they'll take care of you. They do have that forever warranty, but why not just get it right the first time? And so number 5 has got to be the Buck Vantage. Okay guys, there you go. Those are my top 5 overrated knives, and the reason these guys made the list is not just because they're claiming something better than they are. It's because they get a lot of positive attention when I don't really think they deserve it. So there you go. Love to hear some of the knives that you think are overrated in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will talk to you soon.